for so long in the National Football League. Mitch Trubisky against Kirk Cousins. Who would ever thought that, right? Mitch Trubisky played lights out last week against Houston. Can he duplicate this against the Minnesota Vikings? Can Minnesota get back on track and continue to make a push toward a playoff wild card appearance? FPI says 59%. Keyshawn Johnson says 100%.
And welcome into Purple Daily. Zolgad, Mackie out today. Courtney Cronin of ESPN, who always joins us on Friday and /Saturday. Declan Goff producing. And that was Keyshawn Johnson, ESPN Radio this morning, talking about the Vikings-Bears matchup on Sunday at U.S. Bank Stadium. And of course, guys, it is now time for our confidence, concern, and curiosity segment, talking about a game that I'm guessing that we're all either concerned or curious about one position in particular that could make or break this team on Sunday. I'm talking about the Vikings. And of course, Zim could be driven to absolute madness if Dan Bailey struggles again. All right, Courtney, let's start with you. And let's actually start with a positive here. Let's start with confidence. What are you most confident about for Vikings-Bears on Sunday, with, as Keyshawn said, Mitch Trubisky back in the saddle and coming off a good game against Houston?
Coming off a couple good games, too. Wait, to clarify, who was he saying has a 59% chance to get into the playoffs, and he's saying it's 100%? He thinks the Vikings are going to get in?
I think he maybe misinterpreted what the FPI was for the game instead of the playoff odds. I think is what he was probably looking at.
It was a hot take, okay? It's just a hot take. Who cares?
Yeah, that's going to be old takes.
Your coworker, Courtney.
No, I was just curious because I looked over the FBI rankings and they have never been above like 38% for this team this year. My confidence is that this is going to be one of those Bears-Vikings games that comes down to the final possession, just like the one that they played in Week 10 was the ugliest football game of the year, and they ended up pulling it out. And it came down to the fourth quarter and Kirk leading a game-winning drive. Obviously, that was after Akeem Hicks goes out. They score. They come back. I am confident that this will not be a boring game. And I know that it sounds kind of like a cop-out and be like, why aren't you confident in the offensive line getting back together? Because I'm not. And I'm not confident in anything much else. I'm confident that this is going to be one of those insane Bears-Vikings games because everything's on the line. I don't care that it's Week 15. Everything's on the line. And the couple times they've played these teams before, this team before at the end of the season, they've lost. Last year, no one cares. They already clinched the spot in the playoffs. It was, Sean Mannion, I think. It was consecutive streak started. Judd, you didn't even watch the game. I definitely remember you were.
I sat in the back of the press.
You were watching the Packers,
Packers-Lions. It was a far better game. It was the right call by me. I stand by it.
I definitely remember that. I was like, "Where's Judd?" He's like, "Not next to me."
I checked out. It was awful. Sean Mannion was playing. Why would I want to watch Sean Mannion play when I'm watching the Packers?
You came to the press box to watch Lions.
He watched another game. Yeah, no, exactly. It was he went to the omelet bar.
Just for the omelet bar. Let's say it was just for the omelet bar and the halftime snack.
So that was that game, and obviously it didn't matter. But the game before that, when they went 8-7-1, because they had to beat the Bears in order to get into the playoffs in the final week of December in 2017.
Yep.
That didn't go so well for them. So I really did like the intrigue with that game. We learned a lot about where the quarterback stood with everything, where the team stood with the quarterback, what was going to happen next year, that this team was really transitioning into a run-first offense. That kind of was the writing on the wall game for me, and it foreshadowed a ton. So keep it interesting. This game's going to end up being, I think, I picked it with Vikings, 28, Bears 26. So I have it coming down to a very close game, and maybe a field goal or two being the deciding factor. Who knows?
Yeah, of course you do. How late?
Late. Final possession.
Okay. All right.
They can't do anything easy, make anything easy on us, the writers, who are like, especially those of us who have to file at the gun. Like my blood pressure is through the roof these last 2 months because of
transition
the way
words, Cronin. It's the key. However, meanwhile, and then in a surprise, of course, no one saw this coming. The Vikings lost. See, right there.
Have you
bang,
right
30. -30. Okay, Declan Goff, what is your confidence in Sunday's game?
Yeah, I'm confident this Mitch Trubisky experiment is not turning a corner. Okay, I understand he put up big numbers against Detroit. He put up big numbers against Houston. Those are both dumpster fires. I know the Vikings defense isn't exactly world beaters like they've been in the past few seasons under Mike Zimmer, but I actually think Mitch Trubisky is not going to have a very big day. Everyone's back on the Mitch bandwagon and on the score in 670, and everyone in Chicago now is back on it. No. I'm not buying that Mitch Trubisky is back. The Vikings will take care of him. Will it be a blowout win for the Vikings? No. I'm more teeter-totting with Courtney. That's probably going to be a lot closer than it should be. It'll be an ugly football game, but I do not for a second buy that Mitch Trubisky is going to carve up the Vikings. Not for a second.
I am most confident in the fact that restoring order to Zim's world, Dalvin Cook will have 25 or more touches, probably 30 touches. He'll catch the ball, 5 or 6 times. He'll rush, despite the fact that the Bears actually, in the game that Courtney talked about, the Monday night game, beat the hell out of Dalvin. He will still get 25 carries. Dalvin will be a key player because I think ultimately when Zim goes in to talk to Coobs and the boys, he can't help himself, Courtney, but to say, I got to have more Dalvin. Give me more. And they say, but what about Justin Jefferson? What about Adam? What about Kirk? And he says, no. We're going to run the ball against the monsters of the Midway. Damn it. I'm confident that order will be restored in Mike's world. And the one thing that Mike can control, and I'm only partially joking here, the one thing that Mike can control is what? How many touches a guy like Dalvin gets. He can't control Bailey. He can't totally control the defense, but he can control that when he sees 33 take that ball and rumble through the line, that he feels good. I'm confident in that. Your biggest concern about, and there are plenty to choose from, Courtney Cronin, you start off. What's the biggest concern?
I'm concerned, obviously, about the kicking game, but I'm concerned are they going to even attempt it at all? Like, are they going to go for 2 every single time because Mike Zimmer is so terrified of Dan Bailey? And if that happens, what does that do to Bailey's confidence? Because at some point you're going to need him probably to kick a 40-yard field goal. So I'm concerned about how is Zimmer going to handle it in the beginning of the game? Because to his credit last week, he trotted Bailey out there early. Obviously kick an extra point, you think that's automatic, but for a couple field goals there in the first half, it wasn't until at the fourth quarter, they're going for it on 4th and long 4 times, to try to stay in the game. But I'm concerned about what happens in the early part of the game. Does that destroy Bailey's confidence even more?
Declan Goff, what concerns you the most about Sunday?
I have a little bit of concerns with the offensive line going up against guys like Akeem Hicks. And I know Khalil Mack hasn't practiced yet for the Bears, so his status is still kind of a little bit up in the air for Sunday's game. But I do have a good feeling this Bears defense is going to bounce back a little bit. All those Bears fans were whining that the defense was costing them games in the middle of the season, which is hilarious. I know that they haven't been exactly stout like they were in previous seasons. But if the offensive line played anyway like they did against Tampa Bay, it's going to be another very long day for the Vikings offense, and Kirk Cousins will be then frustrated on the sidelines. I don't think we'll get another shouting match with teammates or anything, but I do think Kirk is going to have some frustrations with his offensive line trying to stop a very forceful Bears front.
The Bears are weird. They're a weird team. I don't get them. Like that Packers game that they played in primetime a few weeks back, the defense quit. They just quit. And now they're sort of back.
Team quit.
Yeah, but then they're sort of back and they beat up on Houston, which is a bad team. It's weird. All right. My biggest concern is this. It appears almost certain that Eric Kendricks, the Vikings' outstanding middle linebacker, will not play for a 3rd consecutive game. Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith are probably the 2 pieces, Courtney, of this defense that you can't take out. And if you do, it's a big deal. A guy like Davis is definitely trying hard, and I get all that, but he can't replace Kendricks. And I do think that the Bears are going to go after that by throwing to tight ends, probably. I do think that the Bears are going to try to attack the fact that Kendricks, because of the calf, won't play. That is my concern, is that is probably a piece of the Vikings defense that they can't afford to lose in a must-win game. And I'm not going to be surprised if Chicago exploits that time and time again on Sunday.
I agree.
Curiosity about Sunday's game. Plenty to choose from here.
What's going on with Mitch? What's been a turnaround? He gets hurt and then all of a sudden he's now the savior and everybody loves him again. We all know this guy isn't on the team next year. So what does this mean for him? Like, is this his audition for 31 other teams? Like, is he going to end up being a starter somewhere? Like, my thing is, can he make plays from the pocket? Because we all know that he can, if he's on his first read, second read, doesn't see it, he's going to tuck it and run. That's what he does. But like when the play breaks down, can he actually make a play from the pocket? Like, can you force him to stay in the pocket and make a play from there? Because I'm not entirely sure that that's like a thing with him that's consistent. So I'm curious, like this version of Mitch Trubisky, if this version of Mitch Trubisky beats the Vikings, what does that mean?
And is Mitch now, is this the Kirk deal where the pressure's sort of off? And so he's just like, hey, I can cut this loose. I can play football. This is fun. Well, like, what is this?
Maybe.
Like Kirk does that at times. Kirk's like, well, expectations are gone now. People think I suck. I'm going to be good. It's a very bizarre.
No, it's new. It's the new play calling. Let's just claim it as that. It's Matt Nagy trying to save his job.
That's very true too. All right, Declan Goff, what is your curiosity about?
I'm curious if Alexander Madison or Mike Boone or whoever the hell it is, Amir Abdullah, or even Kirk Vick, Cordell Cousins, whatever the hell you want to call him, if they can actually spell Dalvin Cook and stop Dalvin from touching the ball 33 times a game. I'm curious if it can happen. I know Madison had his appendix taken out, so I got to imagine like playing a football game after you're 2 weeks removed from getting your stomach ripped open. I got to imagine that's going to be like painful to get back in. So I'm curious if they're backup running backs and they can scheme up something not to have Dalvin touch 30 times a game. But when you're going into a matchup against the Bears, and even when they did play them the first time about 6 weeks ago on Monday Night Football, even if it didn't work, they still fed him the ball like 35 touches. So I'm just curious if Alexander Madison, whoever the hell it is, can at least take off some of that pressure from Dalvin Cook. Mike, it's a curious, that's more of a concern, but I'm just curious how it actually plays out.
There is no way that Cook does not touch the ball a ton. There is no, I mean, no.
He's healthy. You know, I agree with Judd on that. Like, he's healthy. He's going to play.
Yeah. And they don't, and their thing is by hook or by crook, they want to make the playoffs, and they're at the point now where I don't think they care how they do it, right? So like, oh man, Dalvin Cook's beat to hell. Give him the ball again. My curiosity stems from how Zim reacted in his very short and what I would call terse press conference with you guys on Wednesday, Courtney. And what I'm curious about is, does the team reflect the uptight nature of their coach? Because I've never seen a coach be uptight during a week and then it works well. Oh man, that guy was wound so tight and it worked great. I go back to when I think it was 2 times that when I covered the Vikings and Brad Childress was head coach and he was going to play the Patriots. I think it was 2 games. It was 1 here, 1 there. And I think it was playing Belichick made Childress so uptight. And like during the week, his answers would be super short. And it'd be like, dude, what's wrong with you? Like, okay, you're playing a tough team. I get that. But I think the whole thing with facing Belichick altered his mood and altered how he treated not just us, but also the players. And in Zim's case, I don't think he has the ability to be what basically comes off as a jerk to you guys and then turn that switch off and go into the players and be like, hey guys, what's up? Let's play hard. So I've never covered in my time with watching Zim, I've never covered him and seen him be uptight and the team then reflects a great game. So I'm very curious to see how the Vikings come out. Do they come out like sort of loose, and do they play a good game, or are they tight? And the other problem, Courtney, that I will tell you that I see here is this. I don't think they have the veteran in the locker room to diffuse the coach's demeanor. And by that, if Zim comes in and he is uptight, he's like, we did not, Tampa Bay, and you guys got to remember, Kirk would be the ideal guy to stand up and say, bleep him, I got this, no worries, right? Yeah. But that's not Kirk. So I'm just really curious to see from a demeanor standpoint how this team reacts to a must-win with a head coach who I think has spent the entire week concerned about his kicker, his quarterback, and probably conveys that concern to his players who don't need that. That makes sense?
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, that could be a Dalvin Cook. I mean, that to me is like the first person I'd think of as somebody, the rallying cry type player. But I don't know. I mean, You're right, though. Like a lot of times, like your body language as a head coach, your demeanor as a head coach, that rubs off on your players. And if you're tight, they might be tight. It's like being around a dog. If you're scared, the dog's going to be scared. So
that's exactly right. Like that's an incredible thing to say, but that is exactly right. Like the players sense how the leaders of the team feel.
Yes,
and they can't.
Not just the Vikings, it's everywhere.
And Kirk doesn't, and I'm not faulting Kirk because it's a personality thing. So I'm not drawing blame here on Kirk, but Kirk doesn't have the ability, I don't think, when Zimmer leaves the room to stand up and say, you know what, screw him.
Yeah,
like that's what you need a player to say. So
I don't think that's demeanor at all.
That's confidence, concern, curiosity here on Purple Daily. Phil was out today, so it was Courtney Cronin of ESPN, Declan Goff producing, as always, doing a great job. And Zolga, don't forget that we will have Viking Vent Line immediately after the Vikings-Bears game on Sunday, where you can react to whatever goes right or goes wrong in that game. Purple Daily, we will talk to you soon. Thanks.